Hey guys, Luke here. This is another episode 9 of the Bulldogs Career Mode show, or whatever I call it, the live comm series. I guess you could say it's a follow-up to the Warriors one. It's not really a career mode; it's a competition. But I called the Warriors one a career mode, and I may as well call this one a career mode too. So as it's loading up, I'm just going to take a quick glance at some of the topics, and I suppose the main one we can talk about is Alex McKinnon. And I'll talk about it once we get into the gameplay, and I won't go into massive detail because there are things that don't really need to be said, or the facts aren't that straight, so it's some things that just aren't really known yet. So kick off, I will talk about it. So with Alex McKinnon, what happened? It was an accident. I can't stress enough that it was an accident. I don't want to say that the whole lifting part wasn't intentional, because that's just, it is how football is these days. But Storm in particular have implemented all that sort of stuff. Oh, and if you haven't noticed here, we got Moses Umbai playing fullback. Corey Thompson dropped. Wasn't impressive in last game. I put his speed up. The reason I put his speed up is probably not known to other. Well, why would it be? Why would it be known to fans of other clubs? But I think he's possibly the fastest at the Bulldogs. And that's saying something when you got a Morris at the club, and I think when Barr was at the club too, he was faster than him. So two speedsters in their own right, but not as fast as him. At least over 40, that is. I'm not sure 100. I'm fairly confident it's. I don't know if it was over 40 or if it was over like the 100. But I'm just gonna say 40 because he has pretty good acceleration. That's why I find it annoying when you go to play career mode and all that, and if he's not in the team initially, so when I sign him, and then I sign him up and he's like 60 pace and just terrible, so you can't really use him straight up. Same way as Milford was, I think, before the update. Yeah, there's Casiano. So we're going with Graham starting, and Casiano as well, Tolman on the bench. That was a little bit weird, that wasn't supposed to go to him. So I'm back to Alex McKinnon. So Jordan McLean was the tackler, and it's just a tackling style of the NRL these days. There's nothing you can do about it. It's just the players are bigger and stronger, and that sort of stuff. Those tackles will happen, and they need to happen. Otherwise, we're just going to see all the all the tacklers. It's just there's going to be so many tries, terrible defenders all the time. It just has to happen. It's sad that it has to be that way, but at the same time, you want better gameplay. That stuff's going to happen. And but Storm are a big reason why all this sort of stuff initially happens. Oh, I didn't realise he was offside right until I'd already pressed A. Oh well. Forward pass by Umbai there. I don't know what to think about Umbai. In the games he's played, I mean, he hasn't been horrible. The Cowboys game, he got outmatched. He got outplayed by his centre, but he's not a centre. A centre should outplay someone just filling in at centre, especially when they're half. So defence isn't their strong point. Though from what I've heard and seen a little bits of, his defence was never that bad. But that's one-on-one defence. It's more positioning is what we're talking about. In terms of one-on-one defence, he's alright, yeah. But positioning is a whole different element with defence. So I said I was going to talk about Alex McKinnon, and I keep getting sidetracked. But what's happened? It's really good. I'll talk about it in another episode, but I can't help but feel sorry for all the other players who haven't got any help. I know in the area there was a young lad. I know it was an AFL player. I don't know him, but I've seen things that happened, and I got told about it. He hurt his neck or something along the lines of that, and there was barely there was a little write-up, but not too much in the paper. But like those sort of things don't get heard about. It does happen more. It probably does happen more than you think. Obviously, they're not going to have a rise for so and so every week. It was one of the actual first-grade players, so I can understand why it gets more mainstream press. But it did seem a little over the top, I have to say. At the Bulldogs, I know for sure there's a player who got hurt, and there wasn't much attention brought to that. I didn't even know until literally like a few days ago that he actually had injuries. I'll talk about that in a different episode, but just bringing it up just as an example. Just, I think the media likes to jump on things, and also I think it was a good opportunity for the PR at the NRL to get in the good books of a lot of people, especially after things like the Todd Carney and all that sort of shit. It was a good way to win back a lot of people. I mean, it was at the expense of something that wasn't great. It wasn't a great look on the sport, so I guess they had to do something. But as much as you'd like to think that they were just doing it out of the goodness of their heart, and I mean they shouldn't have to be calling, the public shouldn't have to be funding all this sort of stuff. The NRL should have been a much more professional a company. It is what it is. Like, I say this a lot, that I think maybe even in the Warriors one, that the NRL, they play the business card at times, or clubs in general, they play the business card when they feel it suits them. They're not the business all the time. So if Alex McKinnon probably will get a decent payout regardless of like the rise for Alex sort of stuff, just through workers' compensation, I guess. I don't know the ins and outs of this. It's just a guess. I totally forgot that we scored, and I said Anna scored. I don't know how, but it's relevant though. That's what I'm talking about. So yeah, McKinnon probably would have got a payout. I mean, he's got the extra $1 million or so, probably with that compensation. I can't say for sure, but it's got to be covering a lot of surgeries and all that. But at the same time, you look at the NFL. I mean, it's hard to compare because one's a multi-billion-dollar business, and one's just recently got its first billion. Let's be honest, NRL isn't the most profitable sporting sort of thing. AFL outdoes it, I'm pretty sure. There's probably a fair few sports in Australia that outdoes it. Rugby union probably outdoes it. They're just all guesses at this point. I know obviously NFL is going to be all the American sports pretty much. America just does it bigger and better at most of things, Hollywood, all that sort of stuff. Apart from being a top country itself, I think Australia's a better country overall. Jeez, what is happening? We're playing terrible right now, but we've got the lead. That's all we need. And Lafai. Oh, that was a solid kick. Off the foot of Coot. Missed the injury himself. I could talk about him at sometime, but I probably won't. I forget where I was going with Alex McKinnon. Oh yeah, I was talking about just the NRL. It just shows how they're not. People see the TV rights and say $1 billion business, but is $1 billion, is that really that much for a company like the NRL? I mean, they probably go through a lot of finances. I'm sure there's a lot of stuff they have to pay out, so I'm not sure how much they get in return. You just got to look at the salaries of the players to realise that compared to other sports, that it's really not that big. Australians might want to think that. It's just Australian sport in general isn't that much. If you look at Cristiano Ronaldo, probably the biggest, well, him and Messi, but Ronaldo, one of the biggest recognisable people in the world. He earns what that some of the top players, what a Jonathan Thurston or something, he earns that in like 3 weeks. Well, probably in a week because you get to include endorsements. But his salary alone from a club from the club is like a third of a yearly income, and then plus you add all the sponsorships and all that. So I think that's a big thing that players missing out on is individual endorsements. Oh, we stuffed up there. Is that Louis? Someone who picked that up? Looks like Louis. Thought we were going to miss a tackle right there. But we just got to hold this lead, 12-0. We don't really need to try anything too outlandish. This forward pass. I think it's Lock and Coot. Yeah, it was Lock and Coot. Pretty good player scan of him, I guess. He's been around for a long time, Coot. I mean, he hasn't done too much, but I suppose he's done enough to be memorable. I know who he is, so. For some reason, I felt the need to shift that back out to the left with Morris, but I didn't do it. Probably a good thing. So, yeah, I'm tracking away from Alex McKinnon, because it's hard to talk about for such a long time, because, I mean, what's more to say than dude broke his neck, and it's good that the community rallied around him, but I hope he's not the last person, because I suspect, unless it's such a drastic one, like a full-on broken neck, like had James Tamu broke his neck in the week before, whatever. I didn't realise that was the last. I'm sure it could have even been bigger, but considering he was like an Australian player and all that. But maybe that'd work against him being one of the elite players. Maybe that's why people got behind McKinnon so much, because he wasn't one of the top players. He was kind of a up. Alright guys, I'm sorry about this. There's going to be an episode in the future where I'll talk about what's happened, but I'll give a brief sort of talk about what's happened. So you may have noticed there's been a cut to audio. This isn't a live comm that I did. It stopped, and it's nothing I said, nothing being cut out. It's just the fact that for some reason my sound card stopped working when I was recording it. Luckily this was the last video I was doing, but went to go render this and I realised, oh, there's no sound from like 11 minutes onwards, something like that. So I thought, instead of just uploading it with 11 minutes of gameplay and live comm and all that, and then all of a sudden the live comm just stops without any explanation, I thought that wouldn't be fair. So I think what I was talking about was the Alex McKinnon thing. I'm not sure where I got up to, but I just want to let you know what's happened. If you would like, leave in the comments. I can touch on the actual Alex McKinnon incident in the future, but I think in the next episode I'll talk about it anyways. So hopefully any sort of answers or anything that you were looking for, hopefully I can answer them in like the next episode. I've pre-recorded them, so obviously I won't be able to look at your answers if you leave them in the comments right now, but yeah, hopefully I address stuff in the next episode. Also, I wasn't aware of in the next episode that it had stuffed up. wasn't aware until like the 11th round or something along the lines of that, because it the sound card sort of like just fixed itself overnight, and I didn't realise that it actually had affected the gameplay at all. So yeah. So I thought I'd just explain it. That's all I've got to say. There's the results for the other games. There's all the normal stuff that I usually say. This comes to the end of the episode. If you enjoyed it, hit the like button and subscribe for more. And see you for the next episode, which will be a proper live comm or back to normal. See yous. Bye.